am standing on the shoulders of the ones who came before me. I am stronger for their courage. I am wiser for their words. I am lifted by their longing for a fair and brighter future. I am grateful for their vision, for their toiling on this earth. We are standing on the shoulders of the ones who came before us. They are saints and they are humans. They are angels, they are friends. We can see beyond the struggles and the troubles and the challenge. When we know that by our efforts, things will be better in the end. They lift me higher than I could ever fly, carrying my burdens away. I imagine our world if they hadn't tried. We wouldn't be here celebrating today. I am standing on the shoulders of the ones who came before me. I am honored by their passion for our liberty. I will stand a little taller, I will work a little longer, and my shoulders will be there to hold the ones who follow me. They lift me higher than I could ever fly, carrying my burdens away. I imagine our world if they hadn't tried. We wouldn't be here celebrating today. I am standing on the shoulders of the ones who came before me. I am honored by their passion for our liberty. I will stand a little taller, I will work a little longer, and my shoulders will be there to hold the ones who follow me. And my shoulders will be there to hold the ones who follow me.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us via live stream this morning. My name is Betty Custer, although it doesn't look like that at all. I serve on the Board of Trustees of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spartanburg. I am also the congregational nurse with a great team. I am in the choir when we get together. Here's a little background about me. I grew up in an Irish Catholic large family. So many things seemed wrong or sinful. The Jewish mothers do not have a monopoly on guilt. For my first communion, I threw up the host right in the middle of the aisle because I was so afraid of how evil I was meant to feel. 8 years of Catholic grammar school, 4 of high school, and then Erskine College. That was an Associate Reformed Presbyterian church. But they were at least kinder than the Catholic Church was. I stuck with the Catholic Church still for a while. But after my divorce, I was told I couldn't marry Wayne, and I couldn't receive the sacraments. That might have been the best thing that happened to me. Then I came here. My first visit was on June 10th, 2012, even though I'd been in Spartanburg since '78. I felt welcomed and comfortable immediately. So I had to find out more about this amazing place. 2 months later, I joined officially, September 9th, 2012. I knew this was a sacred place. So thank all of you for making this a safe space to think, to just be, and to help others in a meaningful way. In cooperation with public health authorities, we have suspended all regular in-person church activities for the time being. As the pandemic continues, we understand there is a desire to find ways to meet in person. We are a congregation, and we must work together. Our highest goal is our care for one another. If you desire access to the church building or grounds for any meeting, please contact the church office so that the board can vet your request to help you find the best and safest way to proceed in coordination with our entire congregation. Our care for one another and our community only becomes more important in times like these. I encourage you to visit our website, www.uucs.org, for ways that you can join in our work. If you have questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to me or any of our board members or any member of our staff. Our job is to serve you. Allow me to share these few announcements. We have 3. The flowers in the sanctuary this morning were given by Robin and Brandon Carter in celebration of their 22nd wedding anniversary this Monday. Congratulations to Robin and Brandon. We're organizing donations of flowers for each Sunday's service this fall. See the happenings for more details. This is a wonderful way for us to connect with this space and this congregation that we love. There is a COVID-19 vaccine program, and it is undergoing phase 3 trials in the upstate. If you would like information about participating, please call me, Betty Custer, or Ruth Stanton, or check this website, vitalinkresearch.com. Scroll to the bottom to click on a black button that says Visit Patient Site. Then click the button that says Select your therapeutic area, and then click the word Vaccine. They are enrolling until they have a much larger sample. If you are still interested after reviewing the information, you may get in touch with the Spartanburg office at vitalink.com. Our voting justice team is hard at work as we head into the fall. The team has created a door hanger that encourages everyone to vote. It does not say how to vote, it just says please vote. We have distributed over 200,000 of these already, 2,000 of these already, especially in underserved neighborhoods where misinformation and voter suppression techniques often diminish the voter turnout. If you would like door hangers to distribute, please contact the church office. Especially in times like these, we need each other. Thank you for being a part of our congregation today. We are a people of faith and hope, and we welcome you.
Thank you, Betty. Hello, my name is Ruth Stanton, and I am serving as your worship associate this morning. Thank you for joining us. Our minister, Scott Neely, is out of the pulpit today and will be back next week. We've had a remarkable summer. First in June, we discussed UUC superheroes and how we can be them, and then moved on to real-life women who were and are superheroes in their times. Leaders in education, nursing, mental health, demonstrating the meaning of love. And now we have moved on into women's rights and then into voting. We were visited by Susan B. Anthony and learned about the challenges this UU visionary met in facilitating the right for women to vote. And we just joined with the League of Women Voters to dedicate the mural on the side of our building titled Determined. This mural is in honor of the South Carolina Grimke sisters, Angelina and Sarah, who were abolitionists and suffragettes. The League dreamed of a special celebration of the 100th anniversary of the women's right to vote, and UUCS offered our wall for this beautiful artwork that to me symbolizes hope, freedom, and becoming. And we are considering the work in voting and democracy that remains to be done. Let us now light our chalice. If there ever were a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice. Today, we have a very special treat. Karen Mitchell, a longtime UUCS member and current president of the League of Women Voters, will be sharing some crucial observations. Before I introduce her further, we've got a special song written in 1923, shortly after the founding of the League of Women Voters, sung by our very own special Erin Galloway.
In this refrain, there are leagues both great and small, but the greatest one of all is the League of Women Voters we'll maintain. Why not come and join the League of Women Voters? They are gaining greater power every day, ever striving for the right, never failing in the fight. The women voters in the ring to stay. Here's your Uncle Sam to you, we'll be to your colors true, wherever your man is from the south or north, from the east or from the west, he must be the very best, or he'll know defeat if he can prove his worth. Why not come and join the League of Women Voters? They are gaining greater power every day, ever striving for the right, never faltering in the fight. The women voters in the ring to stay.
So this song is pretty light, not too serious, but it shows a couple of things. Even shortly after the 19th Amendment was ratified, at that point in time, the women were really not envisioning that, or at least able to say that they were envisioning being the leaders they were voting for, but they certainly had comprehended that their vote mattered and their vote had power. But to move on to introduce Karen a little bit more, Karen Mitchell moved to Spartanburg in 1973 with her husband, Bob Mitchell, so that he could join a well-respected local radiology group. Karen could have settled into the mint julep mom lifestyle, but that is just not Karen. Instead, she raised her two children into wonderful adults while volunteering in multiple endeavors to make Spartanburg a better place. Karen has served on multiple boards, the Girl Scouts of South Carolina as a chair, the Mary Black Foundation as a chair, the United Way of the Piedmont, the University of South Carolina Upstate Foundation, the League of Women Voters of Spartanburg County since the mid-1970s when they got going well again. And of course, Karen has been an active member of UUCS since 1973, serving on just about every committee that has ever existed, and been on our board of directors multiple times, and also served as our president of the board multiple times. Karen has also worked hard to improve our community through the political process. She has been a campaign manager for a congressional race, which was successful, and then a manager for a mayoral and for a county council chair race. Those races were lost. And then a manager for races for city council and the Spartanburg Water District, and those races were won. She served as president of the Spartanburg Women's Political Caucus chapter in the late 1980s and early 1990s, and that organization was focused on getting women to run for elected office and appointed to boards and commissions, as well as being on a statewide group to do the same at the state level. And because voting is so important to Karen, she has worked at the polls for the last few years. So I am very delighted that she has agreed to take the time to prepare a talk for us about voting and freedom at this critical time in our nation. To me, Karen is one of our UU superheroes, and I'm honored to call her friend. It's now time for our covenant, and I have just been introducing Karen as someone who has lived out her beliefs. Our covenant, written by this congregation, provides the practical guidance of how we can live out our beliefs together in community. These words, powerful when they were written, continue to gain power as this community manifests their meaning in its work. Let us join our voices and speak the truth of our covenant. We are a people of faith and hope. Together we covenant to strive to become our better selves, to honor both the critical mind and the generous heart, and to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to respond to systems of violence and oppression with the power of a love beyond belief. And now we come to the part of our service, our joys and concerns, where we would come forward and place a stone or a shell in our rippling water bowl to represent those joys and concerns. We will have a moment of silence to hold one another in care, but please feel free to send a short message to someone on your mind. Let us be together even though we are apart. As a congregation, we have many gifts, and we bring them to each other. Please visit our website at www.uucs.org. Below the live stream, you will see a button that says Help. This page is updated weekly and has numerous ways that you can share your gifts, from actions, letter writing, litter pickup, to your financial donations. We welcome financial gifts to our church and gifts to one of the many funds that we support. There is even a way to support those affected by Hurricane Laura through the Unitarian Universalist Association. For our reading today, from Scotty Hendricks, 10 quotes from great minds on why you should vote. The only way to practice democracy is to practice democracy, by Hu Xi. Hu Xi was a Chinese philosopher who worked in a variety of fields. His political work was heavily inspired by his college professor, John Dewey. Like Dewey, he argued in favor of a pragmatic approach to social progress, made possible by a democratic government and gradualist policies. He also equated democracy with other ideas such as tolerance, minority rights, and placing value on the individual. These notions would also be advanced by a person who is practicing democracy. Here he gives a tautology that needs to be said. A democracy is only real when people go out and take part in it. Voting is the most basic element of this. Think of it. If you don't vote, then how is your life any different than if you lived in a dictatorship?
Good morning. It was fun to hear that ditty from the League of Women Voters from the 1920s. I enjoyed that, I must say. All August, we have heard about women who forged new paths in our society. And today we will finish up the series with women and voting on our mind. Voting is probably already on your mind, given the election coming up soon, very soon. Voting is power. That is why we fight over it. Who has the power? Who wants the power? This morning, we're going to review a little bit of the history of voting. We're going to ask who could vote, when could they vote? In other words, who had the power? Then we're going to think about voting rights today and a legacy of the suffrage movement. So first, let's begin with a brief history, very brief, of voting in the United States. The Constitution of the United States in 1789 said states have the power to set voting requirements. So all the states enacted laws that said white men who owned property or paid taxes could vote. In the first half of the 1800s, some states began to no longer require white men to own property or pay taxes in order to vote. So many poor white men began to vote. 1869, Wyoming. It's the first state where women can vote. Slowly, mostly Western states begin to follow Wyoming's lead. 1870, black males can vote with the passage of the 15th Amendment to the Constitution. Beginning in the 1870s and for decades afterwards, Southern states created ways to block black males from voting. They would ask them to guess the number of jelly beans in the jar, or to pay poll taxes, or to take difficult literacy tests. This is the time of the Jim Crow era. 1920, women win the right to vote with the passage of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Southern states create ways to block black females from voting. This is still the era of Jim Crow. 1943, Chinese immigrants can become citizens and vote. 1948, all Native Americans can vote. 1965, the Voting Rights Act passes. It protects the voting rights of minorities and later language minorities. It prevents discrimination from harming voters. 1971, 18-year-olds can vote, lowered from 21. 2013, the U.S. Supreme Court, in a 5-4 decision, guts the heart of the Voting Rights Act. The decision says that discrimination has to have already occurred. So the Voting Rights Act is no longer about prevention. 2013 until today. Some states make it harder to vote by creating more obstacles for some people to vote. 2020. The John Lewis Voting Rights Act is introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives by South Carolina's Member of Congress, Jim Clyburn. It is approved in the House of Representatives on a party line vote with one Republican voting for it. The bill now sits in the U.S. Senate, and we have been told it will not be voted on this year. Voting is power. Who has it? And who is exercising their power? Oftentimes I use that word exercise when talking about democracy. I say democracy is like a muscle. It needs to be used in order to be strong. My question to you, to us, are you exercising all of your power? All of your power. It can be scary to acknowledge your own power. Sometimes we get a frightening feeling when we know we have power. We ask ourselves, will I use the power I have? And if so, to what end? This actually is a legacy of the suffrage movement. The acknowledgement that it's okay for women to want and have power. Again, the recognition that it is okay for women to want and have power. This is one big, hairy deal. Big deal. It took over 80 years to win women's quest for power for the vote. Finally, in August 1920, they got it. 3 months later, in November 1920, they voted. When the results were in, the members of Congress realized that if they wanted to get reelected, they were going to have to act. So they passed the Maternity Act, the very first social welfare law that came with significant money. Leading up to the passage of this law, 20% of children died in their first year in the United States. This law passed by a huge margin in the House of Representatives, 279 to 39. The women had voted and shown their power. One of the organizations campaigning to get Congress to pass this law was the newly formed League of Women Voters of the United States. It was formed out of the suffrage movement. What exactly is the League of Women Voters? It's a grassroots organization that believes in the power of its male and female members to create a more perfect democracy. The League of Women Voters is nonpartisan. We are political. What does the League of Women Voters do? One of the most important things we do is encouraging and advocating for voting. We register voters. We educate voters. We write letters to elected officials. We call elected officials. We visit elected officials. We tell them what we think they should be doing. And when it comes to voting, we want it easier than it is now. What is this, all this stuff about voting and making it easier or harder? What's the situation now across the country? Since the Voting Rights Act was gutted by the Supreme Court in 2013, some states have gone to great lengths to make it harder for some people to vote. Imagine it, a democracy making it harder to vote. I really shake my head when I compare our system to some others. Let's take Australia, for example. In Australia, if you don't vote, you are fined. Fined if you don't vote. That too probably has its challenges, but think of the rationale here. The rationale is we want to hear from everyone. Also in Australia, elections are a federal holiday. Everyone is off work. They have time to go vote. At the polling places, they have their barbecues out and they're grilling. The atmosphere is like a party. Our polling places sure do not feel like a party. In the USA, we are making it harder to vote. I mean, really? A big way we can stop this making it harder to vote nonsense is to pass the new John Lewis Voting Rights Act in 2021. That means you will need to help get people elected to Congress who will vote for the Voting Rights Act. Voting is power. What if in this election cycle you exercised more of your power? There is a huge amount of interest in this election. The League here in Spartanburg has never received so many calls from organizations and individuals who want to know more about voting and how they can help. You may be sitting there watching this and thinking, yes, I know, I get it, I vote. Yes, you vote. Good. Here is my question. Will you use more of your power in this election cycle? What do I mean by using more of your power? I'm going to give you a few examples of how you could use your power. 1, what if in September you watched the news to find out what the South Carolina legislature has done to make our election safe, secure, and accessible? They're meeting in September for a special session. Did they change the law so everyone can vote absentee because of the COVID-19 emergency? They changed the law for the primaries. Let's do it for the general election. Did they change the law to allow more days to count all those mail-in ballots that are going to be coming in? Are they working to make sure all polling places and workers are in place for Election Day? The League of Women Voters of South Carolina is advocating for all of these things. We're leading a statewide coalition of other organizations, and we're making sure our legislators know what they need to do. So pay attention. And when you learn what actions the legislature did or did not take, start talking about it. Why you? Because you will have been paying attention while others have not. 2, will you commit to begin talking about voting to your family, friends, acquaintances now? What if you talked about voting to one person every day until the election, November 3rd? This means talking to people, it means posting something on social media. That would be 65 times you get voting uppermost on someone's mind. 3, get out your calendar now. Mark the day you are going to vote, mark the time, and allow plenty of time that day for waiting in a long line. Make this a priority. Did you know about absentee voting time and how it's changed? We just heard a couple days ago that here in Spartanburg County, if you can vote absentee in person, you can start on September 28th. That is a week earlier than originally planned. Monday, September 28th. And the voting's going to take place at Memorial Auditorium in the lower level. They know they have lots of parking, lots of room on the lower level. Clearly, they're expecting a lot of people. Did I tell you to mark enough time to wait in a long line to vote? Okay, what about voting by mail? First, get your application for a ballot. Fill out the application, send it in. You will get a ballot mailed to you, and you need to mail it back. Please, if you are filling out a ballot by mail, be careful. Do you know last spring over 500,000 votes were tossed out, not counted, across the nation in primaries? People did not take the time to carefully sign their name. They did not fill out the entire ballot carefully and the envelope. Think about the person who is sitting at the desk counting the ballots. Make it easy for that person to count your ballot correctly. 5, do your voting early. Early. Henry Lay runs our election commission here. We are very fortunate in Spartanburg County. We have a well-run election office. And Henry says he expects 75 to 80% turnout. So to give you an example, in the primaries, it was in the teens. So you see this is huge. They're getting ready. And with all those ballots that are going to come in by mail, it means you're going to need number 6, patience. Decide now that you will be patient to wait for the results to come in. It's going to take days, in some cases weeks, to get all those ballots counted and get the results. There are going to be rumors galore. Stay focused on the facts and be patient. Making democracy strong is my passion. It's something I've always cared about. And voting is the citizenship and then voting as a citizen is basic to being an involved, participating member of our society. Do it. Talk to others about it. Make sure it's happening. My last thought about voting and power and taking action is the engaging and beautiful mural that now adorns the outside of this sanctuary building. It's right behind me, on that wall right there. Sarah and Angelina Grimke grew up in South Carolina. They saw the evils of slavery and they were repulsed. They rebelled and fought for the abolition of slavery. They did not do it for how they were treated, but for how others were treated. Is there any generosity greater than that? Equally as compelling for us is what that generosity of spirit led to. It's why we're here today, talking about women, power, and voting. As Sarah and Angelina worked for the abolition of slavery, they found themselves also working for a change in the governance of our nation that would actually benefit themselves as well, the right to vote for women. Abolitionists and suffragists, they began to work together. They saw that as women claimed their power, it would defeat slavery. And their crusade against abolition led to a second great crusade, so half the population, women, could vote. Sarah and Angelina saw, they heard, they acted. Now is the time for you, for me, for all of us to take action. Vote. Vote early. Help others vote. I leave you with the words of Carrie Chapman Catt, suffragist and first president of the League of Women Voters of the United States. The vote is a power, a weapon of offense, a weapon of defense, a prayer, Use it intelligently, conscientiously, prayerfully. Progress is calling for you to make no pause. Act.
We shall over.
It's food for thought and for action. We will have important dates, website links for voting information, and voters registration in this week's coming happenings. Please, everybody, register to vote. The deadline is October 3rd. And then, as Karen said, help your families and neighbors register to vote. And most importantly, please vote on or before November 3rd.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we'll walk hand in hand someday. We shall all be free. We shall all be free. We shall all be free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall be free someday. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday.
Go in hope, for the arc of the universe is long, and we can bend it towards justice. Go in courage, for together we have the strength to confront injustice in our daily lives and in the larger world. Go in love, because a holy and generous love is both the reason and the means by which we transform our lives.
We have spent time together, and these holy moments give us strength to go down the winding road until we meet spent time together, and these holy moments give us strength to go down the winding road until we meet again.